Hello everyone, I am Duke and welcome to today's video. This time we'll be heading back to the world of 1490 Doom for a short story and introduction to the game's fighter class. If you're new to the lore of 1490 Doom or the channel, then welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. In this short story we join Mateo, a fighter who faces grim odds after his Doom company has arrived at the castle and found its current inhabitants more than a match for them. So without further ado, let's see what fighters have in store for us in 1490 Doom. His Doom company had scattered. He was fairly certain that the scavenger boy Nikolai was probably already dead, and that brute they brought with them had the ladder taken out from under him. No point in stopping to lift him from the fog. He wasn't long for this world. Mateo ran down the bridge towards the central tower of the castle. If he could get there, get inside and make his way to the top, he had a chance to get through this. His Doom company might be dead, but there was no need for him to join them. He turned a corner and narrowly avoided an arrow flying through the air from a tower opposite. He'd need to kill that archer at some point, but right now, his sole mission was to get inside that tower and get some protection. He knew there was only 3 of them left. The archer was over there, so that ruled him out of any direct fighting for now. If he avoided the arrows, he could get into that tower, and then he only had 2 of them to deal with. Footsteps behind him told him one of them was close, and as he turned, he caught sight of the scavenger dipping behind cover to avoid him. That nasty little would have some knife on him, he was sure, but a knife wouldn't be a match for his greatsword. If that git got close, he wouldn't have any trouble killing him, and then there would only be 2. He got in sight of the tower doorway. A quick sprint and he'd be in. Rushing forward, he pushed through the door, but as he tried to close it, a shield was thrust into the gap, stopping the door from fully closing. Damn, that knight was here. If there was anyone he didn't want to have to deal with, it was him. Heavy armor, a shield, and skilled use of a blade could end him quick if he didn't play this right. He pushed his weight onto the door. He looked around the floor for options, but as more weight was crushed against the door on the opposite side, it slowly started to budge as the scavenger had come to aid the knight. He had to think fast. They would eventually win this pushing contest and get inside. At that point, he'd be too exhausted to fight them both and may as well just stab himself now and deny them the satisfaction. The ladder a few feet away from him seemed like his only option. Time it right, let the door go, and scramble before they get in. 3, 2, 1, run! Mateo rushed across the tower floor, and as he reached the ladder, the knight and the scavenger burst into the room. He didn't have time to climb much farther than the floor above them as the scavenger reached the base of the ladder. He took a second to catch his breath, and as the scavenger's head peered slowly above the ladder, he kicked the scavenger in the face. The force sent the scavenger flying backwards off the ladder, and the thud followed by a pained groaning told him he might have a few seconds before at least the scavenger got back up. But the force of the kick had unbalanced him, and as he grabbed the guardrail, he wasn't in the right position when the knight came climbing up. The kick he sent into the knight's helmet only turned the man's head and made his helmet ring. While that sound can't have been particularly comfortable for the knight inside, the kick itself was too overreached, and from where he was, he didn't have enough power to knock the knight off the ladder too. A second later, the knight got up onto the walkway he was on, and shield raised, he came charging at Mateo. As his back hit a support beam for the walkway above them, the air was briefly knocked out of his lungs. As the knight's sword came arcing through the air, he turned away and took cover behind the beam. With the knight's sword temporarily stuck in the support beam, Mateo drew his own short sword and readied himself for an attack. The scavenger had made his way up to support the knight now, and it was a 2-on-1. Oh, he really hoped he could have avoided this. With nothing to lose, Mateo rushed forward, and while the knight was preoccupied with getting his sword free, he kicked the man directly in the chest, sending him stumbling backwards with only his shield in hand. Mateo quickly brought his short sword down to strike at the knight, and the man fell backwards clumsily, avoiding the blow. The scavenger slashed at Mateo, but luckily his armor deflected the knife, and he punched the scavenger in the face for the intrusion. Distracted by the scavenger, Mateo was pinned against the wall by the knight as he rained punches on Mateo's face. The scavenger ran to get the knight's sword, and the 2 men struggled. Mateo was gasping for air as it felt like the knight was going to crush him against the stonework. The scavenger ran to the knight with the blade, but as the knight turned slightly to get the sword from his companion, it gave Mateo the space to get his hand free and thrust up at the knight, who had no choice but to back away. A slash to the knight's face made him raise his shield and take a step back, giving Mateo the split second he needed to thrust his sword at the scavenger. The scavenger backed up and Mateo worked hard to control the space around him as the knight retrieved his sword and the two men slashed and thrusted towards him. Working quickly, Mateo dodged between attacks, parried what he could, and on the few occasions he could make room to attack back, he used the opportunity to maneuver the fight. As the scavenger stood close to the guardrail of the walkway, Mateo slashed at him. With no room to move backwards, the scavenger's throat opened, with a wound that looked like a leering, gruesome smile. Before the scavenger fell backwards from the walkway, Mateo grabbed the dagger from the man's weakening grip, and using the short sword in his other hand, he parried a strike from the knight. The knight pressed the attack as the scavenger gargled, slumped over the rail and hit the floor below, but Mateo was able to parry the knight far easier now with a second, albeit smaller blade. With dagger and short sword in hand, he was a flurry of steel. The knight was hard pressed to deflect the blows with his shield, and Mateo threw a feint towards the knight's head. The lifting shield gave his dagger the opening to stab at the hip joint in the knight's armour. The small blade met resistance before pushing through and lodging itself in the hip crease in the knight's armour. Blood poured from the wound, but the knight remained standing. He didn't groan, didn't yell out. He just took the pain through gritted teeth like a seasoned warrior. The knight hunched over with his shield raised to protect him, but Mateo rained down blow after blow on him with his short sword. The knight's knees buckled. His draining strength made his legs give way and he could only hold the shield up to defend himself. Thrust came up from the knight, but Mateo parried it easily now with the knight's strength weakening, and he disarmed the sword before grabbing the shield and ripping it from the man's weakening grip. The knight fell to the ground. The amount of blood the man had lost became evident now as a huge pool surrounded the two of them. Mateo looked down at the knight who was trying to raise his arms to protect himself, but even this seemed like a Herculean effort. As the knight collapsed against the corner of the wall behind him, Mateo lifted the man's helmet and delivered a clean killing blow with the knight's own sword. Having survived the worst of the fight, adrenaline left Mateo's body and it felt like a weight was going to drag him down to the floor with exhaustion. He couldn't stop now though. The archer was still out there, and whether or not he found anything of use in this tower to keep him alive, that archer could end his life the moment he tried to leave if he didn't deal with him now. Mateo climbed down the ladder wearily, but before he left the room he picked up the scavenger's body. Slowly opening the door, Mateo propped the scavenger's body against the wall and slid him through the opening in the door. No arrows hit the body, and at this range it would have been an easy shot. Mateo paused for a moment before letting the scavenger's body hit the floor. He gathered his strength, said a prayer to the Lord, and slowly opened the door wider. No arrows came towards the door, so he slowly moved a little further out of the doorway. He stepped out of the tower with all the caution of a deer after hearing a sharp snap of a branch break in the woods. He was under no illusion. If this archer had any arrows left, he was less than prey. He was a sitting duck. Once he was fully out in the open, Mateo looked across at the tower that the archer had been posted on. No arrows came, but he could see the man crouched behind the tower wall, his empty quill poking just above the stonework. No arrows left. Mateo started to walk towards the tower. A stone bounced off his armor as the man had started to throw any small rock he could find at Mateo. Clank, clank. Each time a stone feebly hit his helmet or bounced harmlessly off his chestplate, the sound made his ears ring. As he reached the steps up to where the archer was, he saw the man standing, his legs shaking, his face drained of colour and fear written throughout his body. Mercy, that's all the man kept asking for. Mercy, mercy, mercy on me, please. But as Mateo grabbed the man and threw him over the wall, he knew what the archer did not. There was no mercy in the fog. Fighters are another of the units available to your rosters in 1490 Doom. These skillful Doom warriors were once knights or soldiers before the coming of the creeping death. Now their expertise in all manner of war and melee combat has proved useful to them in the world of the creeping death. Fighters are slower than some of your other Doom warriors with only a 4-inch move, and their skill of 5+ makes them a poor choice at opening resource caches or throwing grappling hooks. While a fighter only usually has one attack, they have a combat rating of 4+. making them one of the most effective fighters in your company. This makes them a valuable asset to your Doom companies, especially if their prodigious fighting skills can be put to good use. Not only can a fighter strike out with a devastating blow that ignores enemy defense and also causes 2 additional damage, but they can enter a state of fury. When in fury, the fighter is able to make a full attack roll on any enemy they are in combat with. This only counts as a single attack action regardless of how many are struck by the attack, meaning when cornered by multiple foes, a fighter has the best chance of evening the odds. Their vitality of 6 and a defense rating of 4+ also means that a fighter has a far better chance of walking away from uneven odds than any other Doom warrior available to your companies. So as we bring this introduction to the fighter class to an end, would you include a fighter in your Doom companies? Let me know in the comments below. To discover more about the world of 1490 Doom, click the links to your left, or to discover the lore for any other games like Trench Crusade, click the video link to your right. For discounts on your hobby supplies, check out my affiliate links in the video description, and with that, I'll say thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon.